In 1989, Playtime Co. launched what they call their most important toy line yet. 9 characters, 9 personalities, each one designed according to the marketing material, to be a child's best friend. They gave them names kids could remember, faces kids could trust, cartoon episodes every Saturday morning to make sure that trust ran deep. And it worked. For millions of children, the smiling critters weren't just toys, they were comfort. But here's what Playtime Co. never told you. These characters weren't created to comfort children, they were created to control them. Beneath Playtime Co.'s most beloved factory floor was a place called Playcare, an underground orphanage hidden from the public, hidden from regulators, a place where children with no one to protect them were used as test subject for something called the Bigger Bodies Initiative. And the smiling critters, those warm, familiar faces from Saturday morning cartoons, were placed down there with them, not as toys, as tools. Before we are done here, we are going to answer some questions that the game leaves deliberately unanswered. Why was catnap flooding children's dormitories with chemical sedatives? Why did Dark Day try to lead a rebellion, and what did it cost him? And what actually happened to the other 6 smiling critters, the ones the game never fully accounts for? The deeper you look into smiling critters, the less they feel like toys, and the more they feel like a system designed to break children from the inside out. Let's start with the public story, because it's a good one. Playtime Co. launched the Smiling Critters line in 1989 alongside a Saturday morning cartoon and a nationwide emotional wellness campaign. The pitch was simple. Every child deserves a friend who understands them. Each critter was engineered around a specific emotional archetype. Dark Day, optimism in leadership, the one who makes you believe things will be okay. Bobby Bearhug, unconditional affection, the one who holds you when nothing else does. Bubba Bubba Font, intelligence and curiosity, the one who tells you being smart is worth something. Kicking Chicken, confidence, the one who says go for it. The campaign was extraordinarily effective. These weren't just toys kids wanted, they were characters kids needed. Which is exactly why Playtime Co. put them in Playcare. Here's the thing about manipulating a child. It's much easier when the child already trusts the face in front of them. Playcare needed compliant subjects, children who wouldn't resist, children who would cooperate with staff, follow instructions, stay calm, in situations designed to frighten them. And the children in Playcare, orphans, wards of the state, kids with no family to ask questions, they had already spent months, maybe years, watching the smiling critters on television every Saturday morning. So when those same faces appeared on the walls of Playcare, painted in murals, printed on bedding, stationed at the ends of hallways, children didn't feel afraid. They felt home. That was the point. The cartoon wasn't just marketing, it was conditioning. Catnap. Of all 9 smiling critters, Catnap is the one whose public image and actual function are furthest apart. The cartoon character was a soft lavender cat who helped children feel safe at bedtime. He was gentle, drowsy, comforting. In Playcare, he served the same apparent function. He was the bedtime mascot placed in dormitories, present during lights out. But here's what was actually happening in those dormitories at night. A red smoke, a chemical sedative, was being pumped through the ventilation system. Quietly, consistently, directly into the rooms where the children slept. The children fell unconscious faster than normal sleep, stayed down longer, were easier to move, easier to use. The smiling bedtime mascot wasn't helping children sleep. He was chemically forcing them unconscious. Now we need to talk about who Catnap actually is, because Catnap, the creature that stalks halls of Playcare, the enforcer, the executioner, was not always that. There was a boy named Theodore Campbell. Theodore arrived in Playcare as a child. The records we have access to are incomplete, deliberately so. But what they suggest is consistent. He was isolated, vulnerable, the kind of child who desperately needed to believe that someone was on his side. And something in Playcare recognized that, something that had been watching, waiting. Experiment 1006. The entity Playtime Co. employees would eventually call the prototype. The prototype is many things, but chief among them, it's a manipulator. It finds the broken, the desperate, the ones who want to believe. And it gives them something to believe in, itself. Somewhere in the early 1990s, backpack experiment, a failed escape attempt. The details are fragmentary, but the conclusion is not. Theodore Campbell was severely electrocuted. He survived. He became Experiment 1188. He became Catnap. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Theodore didn't choose this. He was a child who needed protection and was given instead a predator wearing the costume of a savior. The prototype reshaped him, repurposed him, replaced whatever Theodore Crammell was with something useful. After the hour of joy, after the factory fell, Catnap was fully consumed by devotion to the prototype. He built shrines, he enforced forship among the surviving experiments. He became the single most dangerous presence in an already horrific ecosystem. But he didn't become a monster because he was evil. He became one because Playtime Co. gave the prototype a broken child to reshape. The prototype did what it always does. It used him. Now let's talk about Dark Day. If Catnap presents what a prototype can make of a broken soul, Dark Day represents something far more dangerous to a system built on fear. Hope. In the post-collapse ecosystem of the factory, not every surviving experiment accepted the prototype's authority. Some resisted. They organized loosely, desperately around the idea there had to be another way. That survival didn't have to mean submission. The prototype was not a god. They became known as the heretics. And Dark Day, the optimism archetype, the born leader, the character literally designed to make others believe, was at the center of that resistance. Think about what that means. Dark Day was built to be a figurehead. Playtime co-engineered him to inspire trust and loyalty in children. And after everything collapsed, he turned that exact trait that one Playtime co gave him as a tool into an act of defiance. He tried to lead the ones who still had something left to fight for. He failed. Catnap found him. What happened after that is something the game shows you directly and without flinching. Dark Day was mutilated, imprisoned, placed somewhere visible, displayed deliberately as a warning to any experiment still considering resistance. There is a line in the game that crystallizes everything that you need to understand about what Playcare became after the Hour of Joy. Smiling Critters, the characters designed to represent optimism, comfort, safety, friendship, had become the leadership of a religious authoritarian cult in a sealed underground ecosystem. Catnap, the high priest and enforcer, Dark Day, a prisoner, a cautionary display, and whatever Playcare had originally been a place to keep children, it had collapsed into something with no word adequate to describe it. After August 8, 1995, after the Hour of Joy, the Playtime Co. facility sealed. No one came in, nothing went out. The experiments, surviving smiling critters among them, were trapped inside a closed ecosystem that had never been designed to be self-sustaining. The power grid degraded, structural sections collapsed, food supply chains depending on human staff no longer functioned. And the experiment creatures that had been engineered to be larger, heavier, metabolically more demanding than human beings began to starve. 6 of the 9 smiling critters are unaccounted for. Picky Picky, Hoppy Hopscotch, Boba Fant, Bobby Bearhawk, Crafty Corn, Kicking Chicken. The game does not confirm what happened to most of them, but it does, far more effectively, is implied. Picky Piggy's audio logs are the most disturbing of what survives. I'm not going to state definitely what those logs describe because the game itself doesn't confirm it outright. But I will say this. The audio, the context, the situation these experiments were in, a sealed facility, no food, months or years of isolation, all of it points in a direction that is genuinely difficult to sit with. Picky Picky was the food-obsessed character, the one who, even in the cartoon, fixated on eating, in a starving ecosystem with no food source. The audio logs suggest she found something to eat. Hoppy Hopscotch is different. Her implied fate isn't outward. The audio associated with her points somewhere more internal, more self-destructive. Again, theory. Not confirmed canon, but the framing, the tone, the content of what's left behind, it suggests a creature who reached the point of no return and chose to stop surviving. The others, Bubba, Bobby, Crafty Kong, Kicking Chicken, we simply don't know, and I think that's intentional. The horror of the missing 6 isn't any single confirmed atrocity, it's the space the game leaves for your imagination to fill. These characters were created to comfort children. They ended up trapped, starving, alone, in the dark, in the wreckage of the institution that made them. Whatever happened to them quietly, no one is coming to find out. The Hour of Joy. August 8, 1995, 11 AM. The prototype made its move. Playtime Co.'s end is often framed as a massacre, and it was. But it's more precise than that. This wasn't a random breakdown. It wasn't a malfunction or a containment failure. It was the conclusion of something that had been building for years. Playtime Co. created the Bigger Bodies initiative to make living beings useful. They built an underground orphanage to generate test subjects with no one to notice them missing. They engineered mascots that doubled as conditioning tools and deployed them on children who had no one to advocate for them. And then they created Experiment 1006, something intelligent enough to understand exactly what had been done to it, and patient enough to wait. Playtime Co. didn't collapse because of a public scandal, no whistleblower, no regulatory investigation, no expose. The company was destroyed from inside itself, by the things it made. I want to end not on the massacre, not on the factory floor, I want to end on children. Every smiling creature began as an emotional manipulation strategy aimed at orphans. Many of the experiments inside the facility were once children themselves. Dark Day and Catnap, the two who survived longest, became the symbolic opposites of that broken world. Both began in a place of a real, genuine suffering. Catnap was a boy who needed someone to save him. Dark Day was someone who tried to save others. Both of them were consumed by a system designed to treat living things as inventory. The real horror of the smiling creatures isn't what they became, it's why they were created in the first place. Here's what we haven't talked about yet. Everything Catnap became, everything Dark Day fought against, every child in Playcare used as a raw material, all of it traces back to one origin point, Experiment 106, the prototype. And the full scope of what the prototype was actually trying to build is a conversation for a different video. If you want that thread pulled, subscribe so you don't miss it, and if something in this video hit different than you expected, that's intentional. These are characters designed to look like comfort. This comfort you're feeling is the point.